Hello everybody and welcome back to SkySaga Alpha 7. We are over here on a bedrock island and it is time for another tutorial Tuesday. So today we are going to be looking at these guys. So this is an armor and/or item stand, and we're going to be looking at how you place things in exactly the spot that you want them each and every time today, so that you can do stuff like this where you place down an object exactly where you want it and then highlight it with a decor item, just like I've done here with my brazier and the smoke effect, which I think looks really cool. So I've obviously done a few of these type of videos in the past in other alphas, but the hitboxes and stuff have changed just a little bit, so I thought it was time to come over and revisit this. So what I mean by that is, if we have a look here, this is a 1 block gap, an exactly 1 block gap, and if I come into here, you'll see that I can actually push sideways just a little bit now, and you never used to be able to do that before in any of the other alphas that I have played through. And you can also move back and forth a little bit inside this same block as well, which means that placing an object effectively is a little bit more difficult, because dropping an object, where it ends up landing is based on where you are. So you need to be really precise in where you are before dropping an object, so that you know that it is going to go exactly where you want it to go. Now, of course, with this technique, we're not just limited to doing stuff like this. We can also do weird and wonderful things like this, where we sit one in a kind of half, and then we place in some interesting decor items around it. Not sure if you'd ever use this, but I think that looks pretty cool. We can, of course, also drop other things other than armor and create light sources with this technique. So if you have, like me, a whole bunch of raw materials ambers, I don't have them all with me right now, but if you do have these, then you can drop these and turn them into a light source as well, and they look really awesome. So anyway, let's take a look in my inventory and have a bit of a chat about what you need and what you can use to do these things up. So the things that you absolutely need are a few placeable blocks that you can destroy pretty easily. You need some sections of rail. You either need 1 or 3, depending on how you do this, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And then you need small stone windows. You can use any windows for this, but personally I like the small stone windows. Once again, we'll talk about that when we get onto the method in just a second. Then, of course, you need stuff that you're going to place down. So here I've got a whole bunch of items and armor and weapons and all that kind of stuff, and we've also got the raw materials ambers that I was talking about just before. Now, the one big thing I will say is that you need to throw these down on the ground. Just randomly throw one down. Anything that you're thinking about putting out there, just throw it onto the ground and see how it sits and how it spins. And what I mean by that is, if you have a look at both of these guys, this one here is kind of like nose down, and then this one here is kind of like on a weird angle, I would say. It's kind of like off at a 45-degree angle and spinning round on that angle. So a lot of the items are like that. If I throw down the chest plate, for example, that is also on an angle, which means that nowadays you really can't stack on a whole set of armor one above the other, because it's just going to look weird. You've got this piece kind of tilted off to an angle, and that's just going to look really odd and really quite awkward. So I would suggest using single pieces of armor in a single spot, and just kind of foregoing doing any of the other stuff. So to build this up, depending on the type of thing you want to build and where you want to place it, there are different amounts of room that you're going to need to do this. So to place one item in one particular location and in one particular direction, you're just going to need 2 blocks. Now, the way you determine this is by placing down a section of rail, because sections of rail like this, when you place them down the first time, no matter which way you're facing, they will orientate exactly one way. Now, if you're going to go ahead and place down, coming in off this side of those rails, you can go ahead and just have a 2-block wide gap. So if you're facing this way, you can have just this 2 wide gap. But if you're facing the other way, which we'll talk about in just a second, you do need 3 across the front. So in this case, the black spot here and the black spot there are where we're going to place down the item, just 1 block above our floor, I should say. So to get this started, what we're going to need to do is, first of all, take out that block. You don't want that block in there. You want to come along and place in a window, just like this. Now, you can walk over this window, that is perfectly fine, and we're going to do that in just a second. Then, of course, you want to place your rail down on top of that, and then you come around the back here, and you build up a little L-shaped structure. So you want to go 1, 2, 3 up at the back here, come 1 block out, and then 1 up, just like that. So you'll end up with this structure where you've got 3 up and then 2 up, just like that. Now, once you've done that, you want to walk in directly forwards onto this piece of rail. Aim your cursor as far down as it will possibly go. Now you've got a nice little area in between these 2 rails and between the top and bottom of the window that you can aim in. And now you want to try and center yourself as best as you possibly can. For me, I personally try and do one direction and then the other. So I'm relatively centered in the window right now, and I'm just trying to center myself correctly inside the rails. And if you hit the keys too hard, you end up going flying across. But within just a few short clicks, there we go. We are now centered in this rail. Now, before I do anything else, don't touch any other keys. Let go of your mouse. Hit the R button. Now you're in your rucksack. You'll get this weird and wonderful view of your chest or your head or something. And then you want to come in here and click one of your items and drop it. So you can either use the drop down here, or if you click anywhere into the middle of the screen here, it will drop pretty well. So you drop that, and then you can hit escape and get out of your rucksack. And as you can see, this thing is now sitting perfectly inside that block. Just like that. Now, it does overhang a little bit, but that's only because of the way that this particular item is rendered. It is just a little bit wider than a 1 block space when it is placed down. So obviously you don't want all of this stuff hanging around. So to get rid of all of this and to leave your magical item in place, you literally want to come up to this thing, face the ground, and hit and hold E to remove both of those things. Once those are removed, you can repair your ground in whatever way you like, just like this. And then, of course, you want to come out the back and remove all of your placement blocks that you put down. And there you go. Now you have the item floating in the air, and it is completely up to you what you do with that. So there are a couple of really good options. I have a few of them here. You can use cornice pieces. You can use the stone pillar sections. And there's actually even a bit of a cool trick that you can do with these that Boomkin showed off in his stream on last Tuesday. So I'm just going to quickly remove that guy out here again, because I don't want a top or a bottom. So I could just leave it like that and just have the top there. But instead, I want that to be a middle. So I'm going to place this down just like that. Now I'm going to break out this one. Just like that, and now I've got the middle piece there, and I can also come into here and break that guy out. And now we can place back our floor exactly as it was, so we're going to place back that floor. And now we have one item floating on top of one pillar section, which I really like. I think that looks really, really cool, personally. So that's a really cool trick, and it's one of those things that you can do with these stackable blocks that kind of attach themselves together. You can use this type of technique to kind of cut them out and end up with a really nice looking placement. So that's the one high and facing the exact direction you want to be going. To do it again in the 2 wide, so sitting it between half blocks like I've done here, basically all we're going to do is we're actually going to knock out the front 2 blocks here in the ground. We're going to place down 2 windows this time, 1 and 2, and then we're going to build that same shape that we built last time, but we're going to build it 2 wide this time. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then out by 1, out by 1, up by 1, up by 1. So there you go. Now we've got ourselves set up and ready to go. I'm also going to throw on my grid here, just so that I know where I am. And now, once again, we just point ourselves facing straight down, aim at that block. I'm going to remove the blocks from my hand. I'm around about the middle of those stone pieces, and I'm around about the middle of the gap as well, so I'm really quite good to jump out of there and drop an item. So there we go, we dropped the item, and that's going to sit perfectly in that 2 block space, and now I can put anything I like in underneath that, and I'll have a really, really cool sword stand. Now, before I lose the light, I want to talk about placing in a 1 block area the other way. So basically, the reason we need to do something different is because when we place this down, you now lose your nice T-piece. So what you actually need to do instead is, first of all, you need to break out this block so you can place your window down, because that is always the first thing you want to do. I'm going to grab my window back out of here. So I'm going to place our window down in here, Then, this time round, we're going to need to lay down 3 pieces of briar. 1, 2, and 3. And now we have our nice little T-piece again, and we can simply go around the back, build up that same shape that we've seen in all of the other builds, just like this. And then we could walk in here and do this exactly as we did it on the other side. So just a little bit of nudging, and you do get pretty used to doing this pretty quickly. I've only done about 5 or 6 of these so far, and as you can see, it doesn't take me all that long to get them done. And there you go, that is what the materials amber looks like, kind of sitting there out in the world. I really, really like that personally. I think this looks really, really cool as a light source. I'm definitely going to be using it in a few of the builds that I'm going to be doing in the coming weeks. And yeah, I like that a lot. Now, once again, you just finish this off exactly the same way you finish off everything else. I'm going to put some pillars down underneath this, just one of the ornate pillars, just like that. And there you go, that's sitting there, floating just above that perfectly. So yes, this is how you do armor and item stands of any type and description. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. I hope this helps you out in a few of your future builds, and I will see you in the next episode.